Welcome to the Shawaly Show Podcast, where we explore groundbreaking initiatives in education and technology. I'm your host, Moses Shawaly. Today, I'm honored to have the co-founder of OI.AI with us. OI.AI is an international organization based in London, dedicated to democratizing education through artificial intelligence. Their mission is to upskill 750 million students worldwide, focusing on soft skills, professional development, and other things that we will discover in the podcast. OI's innovative AI teacher is transforming education, teaching learners in remote locations and those affected by crisis. Today, we'll dive into their journey, impact, and vision for the future. Welcome, Dev. How are you doing today?
Very good to be here. Thank you for hosting me. It was great to speak to you a couple of weeks ago, and didn't really realize then that I would be here on your show. So really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's an honor. The honor is all mine. It's extremely hot today. How's the weather in London? Here in France, we have almost 4 degrees.
Yeah, it's not that hot here, but again, as you know, we are not used to the heat, right? And the houses here are not, or the offices as well, are not really built for the heat. So I am also, I'm in a half-sleeved shirt and still feeling a little hot, trying to get as much cold liquid into myself as possible.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like in the Middle East where I have roots. It's usual in the Middle East, you have AC everywhere.
Yeah.
But here, when it's hot, it's really hot. It's extremely hot, and you can't get away from it. Well, Dev, thank you so much for your time with that, for accepting my invitation. I would like to start by knowing. I would like to know more about your background and how did you come up with the idea of OI. So we can start with your background and what OI.AI is, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, of course. So my co-founder, Dr. Poldy Otermans, both of us actually started working together when we were in university. We went to Brunel University, London. At that time, she became the president, and I was the vice president of our student body. So we started working together. After that, we decided to travel a little in Asia, and we actually started, as some people do. We went and we were providing some free teaching in some marginalized schools. And while doing that, we actually found a big gap. We found that the entire realm of skills training, be it transferable skills, be it employability skills, this was completely ignored. And not only was it ignored, whatever little was there, they were actively cutting it out as students progressed because academics was the key, right? So then traveled around 13 to 1600 kilometers, Nepal, India, Bangladesh, etc. We found the same thing. So we thought that that was a big enough problem to solve. So we first started essentially working with teachers, etc., to figure out what happened, and then eventually we decided that I think active support needs to be given to these students. So we registered our company, which is Otermans Institute, in 2020 February. So this was a couple of weeks before the lockdowns, not the best time to start, but long story short, we were able to scale to 9 countries in the first year. Now, while scaling, we faced another problem. And this problem was we couldn't hire enough teachers and trainers. And we inherently believed that any kind of upskilling needed this, teacher support. Content alone wouldn't have done it. Otherwise, Khan Academy, YouTube, free distribution of books would have solved this issue. So we couldn't find enough teachers. Quality control was an issue. So we actually started experimenting with AI to see if we could digitize part of this teaching, right? So we launched in January of 2021 the first version of this teacher. It actually was pretty successful from our students. We were also supporting marginalized learners at that time with UNHCR, ended up people in UNHCR camps, and that's when we saw the scalability of this. So since then, we've developed the entire product on our own. So we've got our AI that is active in market. We've got, because we give a lot of focus on privacy. So we've got our own 7 billion parameter fine-tuned model. And that's essentially the journey. In terms of me and Poldy as well, we never really thought it would be AI. We came to that as a solution to a real problem. So, her background's education. My original background was law. Then I dived into AI and then ended up getting into PhD in AI as well. So, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's extremely interesting. And your name is Dev. It sounds like development, actually. I don't know if you've ever crossed your mind, but
yeah, I've heard that one before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. So this you take dev care of department. That's very interesting. So you went from law to programming. Okay, that's super interesting. On the company's website, you say that you would like to upskill 750 million students worldwide. How did you come up with this number, and why?
Yeah, exactly. So just before I answer that question as well, just to clarify, more than development, my role in the company and also in the sector now, having gained the experience, I'm more of an AI architect. So I'm able to look at the holistic view of the architecture of any systems. And the only reason I brought this up is because I think, for the listeners, at least in my humble opinion, there is a idea that AI is equal to development. It absolutely isn't. AI is actually very different to computer science as well. It's a holistic subject. So it has a lot of HCI, human computer interaction, psychology,
Neuroscience.
neuroscience, systems architecture. Development is part of it, right? So I just wanted to touch on that. Now, see, again, answering your question, we absolutely understood, and you can see there is this global skills and literacy gap, right? No matter what people have tried before, this gap just seems to keep increasing, not decreasing. And the primary reason we feel this is the case is because we try and often use band-aids as solutions. So, they don't have access to education there, let's give them some books. Let's get some volunteers to teach them for 3 months. Those sort of things. Trying to build brick and mortar schools doesn't work. We know that it takes a lot of time, etc., especially in marginalized areas. And we worked in Afghanistan, Iraq, Malawi, etc. But getting active and personalized teaching support is, in our humble opinion, the way to break this glass ceiling. Because first-time learners, if they get stuck, they can't solve their doubt, that's over, and so on and so forth. So that's why essentially we do what we do. For us, 750 million is a key tipping point because we believe that if we can hit that, then we are on our journey to be the teacher of the world. That's number one. Secondly, also from areas that we saw at that time requiring this support, especially people who were in this marginalized segment, and also these areas' growth rate in terms of young population. We came up with a number of 750 million. Today's problem, that actually could be a larger number, simply because just on AI literacy, the world now needs to upskill 500 million people in the next 2 or 3 years.
At least, yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yeah.
So you mentioned before that most of yours are in Asia. Now, Africa and the Middle East, this is a huge market where the majority of people living there are under 30. So which means that they need, and their governments are investing huge money in trying to educate and get them, make them employable. So I really see the impact of a company like you in now you can't have enough teachers, or you can't really have the best teachers in the world replicate the knowledge, to teach everybody there. I would like to know how does it compare? How does a human compare to an AI teacher, to a traditional human teacher? How does he an AI teacher, and how does it look like? Can you walk us through your platform looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just touch on a few points because we've also changed, and we rapidly change every month. So our journey really started in Asia, but we have done quite a lot of work in the Middle East. In fact, at the moment, or just a month ago, we were looking at continuing to support in Palestine, for instance. Giving the free service to a number of students. Commercially, we don't have our sort of seat in the Middle East yet. We are looking for partners, etc. We would be very happy to do that, and that demographic, like in Asia, absolutely fits. But we are that much also in the UK and in the US as well. Now, in terms of this teacher question that you asked, that's a very interesting question. I'm going to flip this over, right, first, just for fun. But I think it makes sense. If you really think about a human teacher, right, if you really granularly think about it, even in your own journey, just think about your own school. You are the sample size. No two of your teachers were the same, if you really think about it.
True.
So it's not human versus AI in the way. Everybody has characteristics. Now that brings us to the next step. If we are developing AI systems and AI teachers, then probably what we can do is try and take the best of the different characteristics we have, because this teacher is programmable. Now, what is best obviously is subjective. So that's a different discussion, but we have the ability to do that. Touching on this as well, you also said, the best teachers in the world. Yes, you cannot give that best teacher with that best teacher's sense of humor and that connection with the student at that time. True. But what you could do is you could map the content, the way of thinking, the essays, recorded delivery of, let's say, a teacher from MIT. You could take all of that data and put it into an AI, and it would be near replicating. Yes, it would be near replicating that teacher who is considered to be one of the best because they're in MIT, let's say, and then you give that to 700 million people who are in Asia and all over the developing world. So you could do that. In our case, our teacher is an avatar for the user. It's an avatar that speaks. It speaks using our generative AI model. It can any content and teach. We always focused on the teacher. So any competitor we have, they're either teaching English or math, da da da. We teach everything. If you have a piece of content, you can upload it, and using other technologies separate to core LLM, our AI is able to extract that and teach you that, answer any questions. It will test you while it's teaching. It will reteach you. If it thinks you haven't understood, it'll give you feedback. But that's essentially the beginning of this journey. Essentially, the end of this journey is going to be when this AI teacher, no matter which shape it changes to, understands you better than any other human teacher does. And it might sound a bit scary, but it's because the amount of time you spend with them. Like, a bad example here is social media or this marketing understands you better than your own, consumption behavior, right? So this could happen, but in this case, it's tech for good, because if it understands what you need to learn, how you learn best, then that can be a very good and productive cycle.
So it's basically based on the input, based on what you give, the information that you give the AI. The AI gives you what it thinks you need. How do educational organizations, or how can educational organizations OI.AI? Like how does it look like?
So, see, obviously we're right. So we're a commercially driven organization.
Yeah.
In terms of our commercial drive, we have two main customers.
Yeah.
Customer one is educational institutions. We've started working with schools. We work with universities, and universities essentially buy licenses from us.
Yeah.
So per student gets a license. So by doing that, that student now gets access to the AI teacher. The institutions can upload their own content as well, because although our AI teacher can teach anything, I'll just give you an example. The University of Birmingham and Michigan State University both might be teaching digital marketing, but they have their own notes, preferred slides, lecture slides, etc. So you can put that in as well. So it's your content for your students. Similarly, the other commercial side for us, which we have seen an extreme pull from, is corporate L&D. We work with companies with more than 3,000 employees. Global companies usually, they cannot train all of their employees together. It's just too much of a hassle. And there is a dashboard here, a super analytics dashboard, which tracks down to the single sentences you as the learner is talking to the AI. Now they can really understand, John is getting this wrong, Jenny is getting this wrong, this cohort is having these questions, they're asking the AI. And they can directly solve these challenges. That's the commercial bit. Apart from the commercial bit, we always work with marginalized. So at the moment, we're even working with universities in Palestine, for instance, because their infrastructure has been disseminated, right? So we are working with them and providing the service for free. We work with UNHCR, we work with UNICEF, etc. So that's something we do because that's in our DNA. But in terms of our commerce, it's your education institutions and large corporates at the moment, and we will get commercially into D2C sometime early next year.
That's very interesting. So schools, you mentioned schools. How can we make sure that privacy, there are no leaks? What kind of actions did you take when you created your tools, your AI tools, especially working with with kids?
Yeah. So see, firstly, when we work with, we are London based, right? So we anyway have to follow GDPR, etc. But when we work with schools, we essentially become a school, right? So the school has the final say. That's the first part of it. Schools don't look at this probably because they don't have the tech side of it, but corporates can also ask us to host on their cloud. We allow that. So if schools wanted it, we could do that. But in essence, we are doing an alpha launch in November of this year. We are going to do an alpha launch of our product in Edge. If we are successful, then most of that compute, especially the private words, etc., that happens during those communication, will happen on the device itself. Now that's going to be a major leap in terms of the privacy element. It's not only for children. Again, companies, they're learning, internal compliance, etc. You don't want that to leak, right? So that's going to have a major leap there in that way. And secondly, I think for the world, we can then prove that it's just not big tech, right? As app builders as well, you can get into the edge space, and we're very close.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, of course, privacy is important, not only for schools, but also for the private sector companies. So any company working with a lot of data, they want to make sure that it's watertight and it's quite so it's a priority for many industries. That's very interesting. Now moving forward, I would like to know more about your future plans or immediate near future plans. I know that you're raising funds. Can you tell us a little bit more about your what are you looking for as partners, which industries and parts of the world?
See, commercially, our focus is the US and UK at the moment, and we are working everywhere else, but we are not driving the marketing there. Like we had an inbound from a private university in Indonesia the other day. So
Yeah.
that's active. Our immediate plans are essentially for this year at least, we are going to onboard 5 new clients for annual contracts. This is in between the L&D and the university space. I don't
Yeah.
think we'll do any more schools. We're onboarding a new school in September, but that cycle's gone. Another big one is again the Edge AI launch. That's a big one for
Mhm.
ourselves. Now the catch here is because we had our previous business model, right, which was human teacher teaching, and we've always been research led. So we've won a number of top of the top grants like Innovate UK, Smart Grant, and we were making money with the previous business model.
Mm.
The entire tech, including the fine-tuned language model, has been built from scratch by us, bootstrap. So we are now
Wow.
actually going for the first time to investors. It's around a 2 million check, and it's mainly for a GTM drive. It's to get not stick to 5 clients a year, move to leapfrog to 40 clients a year, and really drive that growth rather than we've got an MVP and we want to further build that. All of that is
Yeah.
done.
Well, as you know, as an investor, you always look for to the background of the founders. We know a little bit about your background, which is very interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about your co-founder's background as well, Polly? Her studies. I know she did a PhD in neuroscience, right?
Yes. So
Can you
she's
tell?
a cognitive neuroscientist and a cognitive psychologist.
Yeah.
Absolutely very important from an HCI point of view because we try to humanize our AI. She fits in there. She's got about almost a decade of higher education expertise. That again helps from a teaching and learning standpoint. And again, in this journey, she is now I think one of the top under 35 AI female researchers in the UK. I think she got 3 awards just in the last 6 months, and she was also named 22 most influential women of 2022 by Startup Magazine. So she's got that AI knowledge that has been built, over the last couple of years. But her main strengths, which is neuroscience and psychology, is inherent to our product development, and that I think a lot of dev first startups lack because they're trying to solve a solution purely through code. You really need to understand it at a deep level to be able to solve it for the long run.
Yes, exactly. That's amazing. That's very interesting. So, as an investor, should actually just gotta check and relax, right? Their money will be in good hands. Can you tell us a little bit about numbers? Like, how was your like since you started with your AI model? Has it been in like how did the curve move? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
See, the current AI teacher that we have is version 2, right?
Okay.
So it's new in the market. It will be doing 600K, and then it's going to jump to about 2.4 next year. If we are holding
Yeah.
on to all of our clients from this year, it'll just tip over the 3 mark. So that's the numbers, but I don't think that's the main numbers here because a lot of things happen in businesses. I think some of the numbers we are very, very excited about is when we do non-compulsory across the world. So this is across 5 or 6 countries at a time. No payment, not compulsory, etc. Minimum 9-hour courses, right? 9-lesson courses. We see completion rates of 64%. If you compare
As
that to
opposed to
7 to 14%.
wow,
Exactly.
it's amazing.
So that's one. The other one that we see is on average 5 unique questions are asked to our AI per hour of learning per user. Now, that's something they could never get support of if they were just
Mm.
watching videos or reading text. More importantly, for the institutions, for the employers, for the schools, now they can also see there are these 4 or 5 questions per student that's coming. they can actually map that out and see, hey, I need to tweak my module slightly. My students are not getting this. This kind of data is of immense value, which was not previously visible. Not only because of us, but previously you couldn't speak to the machine in an intuitive way. Now you can. That's what generative AI is broken.
That's super interesting. Does that mean that we don't need humans, or we're not going to need teachers anymore? Like, what do you think? What also for those who might be losing their jobs or their institutions? What's your personal opinion on this?
No, that's not the case right now. So it's my personal opinion, but it's also a very strong opinion based on data. Till 2030, that's not going to happen at all, right? You are going to replace a human teacher in places where human teachers can't really get to. Palestine, yes. Refugee camps, yes. But in schools and colleges, no. There are different reasons for that. But one of the reasons being value is also drawn by the person who's teaching, right? But that's not the main case. The main case here is till 2030, AI is inherently going to be, multi-x jumping the productivity of knowledge workers. You're a banker, it's going to bounce your productivity. You're a lawyer, it's going to bounce your productivity. We are in the teacher space or the academic space. It's going to bounce your productivity. I'll give you an example. It takes you between 2 to 7 hours to make one lesson on an LMS or a VLE system, right? Let's say on Udemy, you're making a lesson. Our AI teacher will take your content and make that lesson in under 5 minutes. But you can still edit every word. So you have number two is now John is getting this wrong, Jenny is getting this wrong, Ram is thinking about this, etc. So that kind of information you didn't have to personally support children before or plan your next lesson.
You didn't have to spend the time standing next to them to know what they are getting right or wrong.
Exactly. But now you can spend your time to exactly solve that problem because you know. So all of this is augmenting and boosting the productivity of knowledge workers.
Optimizing your time as well. Yeah.
Optimizing your time, optimizing the students' time, ROI is a better impact as well. Post 2030 is going to be a different space. A couple of reasons why. The AI consumer market would have matured, then they would actively choose between human and AI. That's number one. Number two, by then, all AI systems with lawyer, nurse, our case teacher would have tenfold or maybe thousandfold more data. So they become even more stronger. Thirdly, there is this argument of AGI coming in. No matter how you define it, if you're near AGI as well, that's going to be phenomenally different from generative AI. People are thinking it's just going to be a bigger version. It's going to be, GPT-7, which is going to be $10 trillion. It's not about that because generative AI is simply a prediction machine. When you're talking about general intelligence, it has more than that. But there are companies in space, we also look at it, who are actively looking to get there. And if they get close enough to that, again, the entire sort of reason for AI to exist changes. Because at that time, AI won't exist to boost your productivity anymore. It will exist to do something more than that. What that is a question mark. But there is going to be a very, very strong shift from 2030 to 2032 in almost all industries.
How do we know that it's going to be 2030 and not a couple of years from now? Like, who decides, or what do you think it's going to be 2030?
See, we make our best guesses, right? But talking from myself, I live and breathe this space. Sometimes it's the moment I sleep, I'm there, and I always I'm always in the news. I'm catching up stuff. I'm in forums and groups which are not open to other people. So we see these kind of things. That's number one. Secondly, if you really want a fun sort of description of a soothsayer, a modern day soothsayer, he's actually got most of his things right. And I'm not saying it because of him, but if you just want to follow something, read up Ray Kurzweil.
Okay.
He's also predicting the same thing. And he predicted, this Gen AI, he predicted quite a lot of things from the 1970s. Wow. So, and if you get wrong, it's not going to be wrong by more than 5 years because there is a lot of capital, a lot of money, a lot of brains that have come into this space.
Yeah, and it's improving very quickly. I remember when AI like ChatGPT came out a couple of years ago, it was so far away from what ChatGPT 4 is. It's been only 2 years. So imagine, and all the other models, Perplexity, the other ones, Llama. So you're definitely right. So we should expect that the education to change, which means the business model for schools and private sector, even education within companies, will have to change.
I'll give you one example since you brought this up. It's a fun example, I think. I'm not in that space right now, so I'm not, and it's better if I say it because then I'm not biased towards it, right? This is this is a prediction from Owl VC. They are the number one VC,
No.
and they are really waiting for the dam to break for the Russell Group in the UK or the Ivy League in the US. What that simply means is at some point, because the higher education traditional space is being pressured every day, right? You had MOOC platforms, etc. Now international students are not coming, government being cut, whatever. So this segment is getting pressurized very, very regularly. At one point, just one of these organizations is going to break that dam, because what they currently rely on is a closed wall system. What that means is I'll make it extremely difficult for you to get in. Once you get in, you get into a private members club. That's the value, right? From there, they make the most money and their endowments, etc. The moment one of them breaks this model and says, now I, Howard, I'm going to teach 100 million people my content.
Right.
Everybody's going to break. That's going to be the tipping point of the change of education. And they're going to do that when you have systems that are way more powerful and way more, I would argue, human-like than MOOC platforms and LMSs. We are on that journey. But again, it's not the sector we are in right now. So I'm saying this unbiased view on this. But if that happens, it's radically going to change how education is consumed. And if we are talking about that 100 million mark, you're no longer talking about $50,000, $60,000 a year. You're talking about $1,000 a year multiplied by 100 million, rather than $60,000 a year multiplied by 1,500.
Super interesting. Are your avatars a threat to influencers within the educational sphere?
We see.
Should they feel threatened? Anybody who's has a personal brand, what's the difference?
I'll give an example. We can look into that segment because we build our own avatars. Because we have our tech stack, right? We can look into different angles. We've done that before wrongly. It's distracting. So I wouldn't do that right now. That's the first part. The second part is they can actually utilize us. So we are partnering with somebody in the US right now. So she's launching her new courses. This is on AI literacy because of this big market need, 500 million people upskilling, reskilling, right? And she's targeting people who are just under the corporate level. So, people who are self-working and NGOs, etc. I think she has a very good market. Now, she's got the content. She's got the vetting on the content. She didn't have a differentiator. What she's doing is she's using our platform, white label, and that's going to teach her students, right? So it's a direct differentiator. AI is teaching you about AI, which is vetted. So, and she's sort of influencer, huge PR and marketing background. So people could actually, there is a partnership opportunity. It's not really a conflicting opportunity. And I think if, also this is just my personal thing, I think we should all thrive in partnership because we can grow faster.
All right, that's interesting. I just came up with an idea. Can an influencer or somebody with a famous face partner with you so you could use as an avatar, to sell the licenses or your AI license? Would that be like a possibility?
Absolutely. Like in her case, she doesn't want her face there, but it could absolutely do that. We do bespoke avatars for a charge. We essentially work with anybody. What we look at is the scalability of their opportunity. And minimum getting in for us is if you have at the price point. So let's not discuss the price point here, but at our price point, if you can get to 500 licenses a month for an annual contract, then you're an active partner with us. We will put you into our onboarding system. You're talking about white labeling, you're talking about avatar change, etc. Everything.
That's perfect. Any other question that I should have asked you that I haven't?
I was just going with the flow. So if there's anything else, please go for it.
No, it's super interesting. Thank you so much. Well, I would like to thank you for being with us. For our listeners, if somebody wants to invest in your company or would like to know more about what you guys are doing, where can they find you?
So our website is OI.edu. So oiedu.co.uk. And you can just email me directly or email our team at founders@oiedu.co.uk.
Okay, perfect. I'll put the contact details in the description below. Thank you so much, Dev.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for being with us. Have a good one. Bye.